welcome everybody to our signature event, the Flip and Sip. Before we get started, quick show of hands, how many people have never been to one of our events before? Okay. Get your hand back by it. So a couple people I'd like to acknowledge, the other members of the team. We have Carly right there, Eddie back there, and then Lorenzo right there. So feel free to ask us anything you like. Feel free to go anywhere inside the property, anywhere outside of the property. Feel free to grab anything inside the fridge. So yeah, now I'd like to tell you guys a little bit about myself. I got involved in, first off, I'm a psychology major at the University of Rhode Island. And I got involved in real estate about a year ago. And what sparked my interest was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. It kind of changed the way, I see the reaction, a lot of you guys probably read it. It kind of changed the way that I looked at just everything, money, financing, everything. So yeah. So now that you guys know a little bit about myself and a little bit about the event, I'd like to break down the 4 aspects of the company so you guys can get to know a little bit about kind of what we do. So the first piece is that we're investors, so we buy properties, we fix them up, and we resell them for a profit. Kind of like on HGTV, but just a little bit different. So the second piece of the company is property management. So we manage the day-to-day operations for individuals who feel like they want to buy a rental property but don't want to deal with the headache of actually managing a rental property. And then the third piece is joint ventures. So we partner with individuals like yourself who are interested in getting involved in real estate, and we give them an opportunity to invest alongside with us. And then the fourth and final piece is why you guys are all here. We provide free real estate education in the hopes that you guys will go out and be able to implement what we teach you and take action and build that generational wealth for your families. So now that you guys know a little bit about me, a little bit about the event, and a little bit about the company and what we do, I'd like to introduce Nicholas, and he's going to be talking about financing and how to get pre-approved.
What's up, everyone? What's up? My name is Nick. I'm a loan officer at Cross Country Mortgage, which is based in Smithfield. It's a branch we have in Smithfield, the only one in Rhode Island. If anybody doesn't know what a loan officer is, I'm the guy who gets your business. You come in if you want to buy a house, if you want to get finance or anything. I basically rip apart all of your income, all of your history, credit, all that stuff. I figure out if you can qualify, and from there, we determine if you get pre-approved for how much and what you can buy and all that fun stuff. First question, does anybody own a house here? Do you guys have mortgages on your house? Yes. Yeah, everybody. Basically everybody does. All right. So I'm a necessary evil. Our company, we're a bank. We lend out money when you don't have the full amount to put for a cash investment. It's relatively simple. We give you money. You pay us back over the course of however long, 15, 30, 25, 20 years, called the mortgage. Once that's paid off, then you own the house free and clear. You and the government will always own the house together because you always have to pay taxes. So that's the basic idea of what a mortgage is. What I'm here to talk about are different types of mortgages everybody can get when you own a house. So buying your first house, if you decide to buy a multifamily, you will need 25% down to buy a multi. Unless you want to live in the property, then you can do loans with the FHA, which is 3.5% down. So instead of putting a $100,000 house, instead of putting $25,000, there's no $100,000 houses around, but if there were, instead of putting 25 grand down, you put 3,500 bucks up front. You live in the house, you have to be there for 1 year. That's the FHA. Single families work the same exact way. But essentially, you have a plethora of different options in front of you when it's your first time or second time buying a house if you want to live in the property. I brought a few handouts that Rich's handing out right now, but essentially the big one is the differences in loans that we have and that all banks have. You have conventional loans, FHA loans, you have VA if you are a veteran, USDA if you're buying in rural areas, but the big ones are the FHA and conventional. If you buy a house with the FHA, it's backed by the Fair Housing Authority. That means you have mortgage insurance on the house for as long as you own it. You can put 3.5% down, better interest rates, but the house has to kind of be put together. You can't have a house that's a little dilapidated and you want to do some work to it. So this house would be a great FHA house because everything's put together. You walk right in, it's not a problem. This house, before it was fixed, before these guys came in, you may be able to get a conventional loan, but more likely you need something like a renovation loan, which is what we offer. Renovation loans are 203K loans and home style loans where you can purchase a house, the entire renovation cost you add to the total loan amount, and then everything's based off that. So if the house is 100 grand, you need 50,000 worth of work, your loan amount is 150,000. We put that 50,000 in the escrow account and we pay your contractors to go through the property. They're something that you have to live in the house afterwards, but those are some things that we work on. Yeah, I mean, yes, sir.
What if you're your own contractor?
So the FHA doesn't allow you to be your own contractor on your own house for 2 or 3K loans. You have to have a general contractor that's running the job. You're not supposed to do the work, but if you do, nobody's gonna come and look at it. But they basically want there to be a separation of church and state, essentially, where you're not just getting the money in and doing it on your own. They want somebody that's going to be accountable for any work that goes into it. Just in case something happens, they want to know that if they write a check, that the work is done completely. So that's a 203K.
I'm sorry,
Yep.
how long after your first house purchase are you considered a first-time home buyer again?
So you bought your first house and then you sold it?
Yeah,
3 years.
all right.
After 3 years of
Ownership.
once you don't have any ownership anymore, you're a first-time home buyer again. If you still own the house, like if it's your rental, then you're not a first-time buyer. But you can get into a new house as your primary residence and take advantage of different programs. You can do, so if you have one FHA loan, you can't have another, if it's one on your credit, so your first house is FHA, you can't go buy another house with the FHA, but you can keep that house and use another program through conventional means. We can put 5% down or 10% down in certain circumstances, if it's gonna be a primary residence.
That credit minimum applies to the program, all programs that you just said? That 580, that?
580 is FHA.
Only? 203K is what?
Depends on the bank. Our bank is 620
Okay.
for a minimum for a 2 or 3K. And the reason why is they're a little more risky, so they want to make sure, on paper the math works out. If you're over 620, they're gonna get paid back. But 580 for regular FHA purchases or refinances, 620 for 2 or 3Ks. The VA, there's no minimum. If it works, it works, but usually it's about 580, 600 is usually where the cutoff is. And then conventional loans, where 5% down works, you can have, if it works at 620 credit score, it works, but the difference is those loans are, the interest rates and the PMI and all that stuff that goes along with loans are based on your credit score, so you'll have a rate that's way up over the a normal market rate. So there's a lot of different aspects and pieces of the pie that make up what works for you. The biggest thing you can do is find a loan officer that you know, that a realtor or a friend or somebody has referred you to. Go over all your finances. For us to do a full pre-approval, basically you come to my office or you talk to me on the phone and I get your credit report, your income, your last 2 years of income, so W-2s and tax returns, your current pay stubs, and your assets, so your bank statements, where you're gonna get the down payment from. The easiest thing in the world for anybody to do is have an 800 credit score, 20% down. That's maybe 1% of the people I talk to have that. For me personally, I deal with first-time buyers. That's kind of my forte, how I get into the business. And you might not be ready. You might have a 550 credit score today, but I'm the type of person that help guide you to get you up to that 650 credit score where you're ready to buy, or even beyond that. So it might not be ready with us right now, but it could be a year down the road, 2 years down the road. You're at least putting yourself in a position to talk to somebody. And the next step, the pre-approval, once we get all that information, we decide what you qualify for based on your debt to income ratio. I think that's one of the flyers there. Should be. If anybody knows what that is, great. If you don't, it's It's just like it sounds. We take all your debt that you have monthly, car payments, student loan payments, credit cards, all the minimum payments there, we add that to whatever the cost of the house is gonna be monthly. So taxes, insurance, PMI, and your actual mortgage, we add those together, plus what your debt is every month, and we divide it by your gross income before taxes. So if you make 60 grand a year, that's 5,000 a month, and your monthly bills are 500, you can, off the top of my head, you have about $2,000 to play with in a monthly payment before, if you qualify or don't qualify. So, and that 2,000 is probably like a $300,000 home purchase. So, it's basic, simple math, but it's really just getting yourself prepared, and that's where a loan officer or a bank comes in. We sit down with you, we'll determine what works, and then as a team, we'll basically go over what you feel most comfortable with. This is just as a side. Even though you can qualify for something, doesn't mean you should. Because you can, pay $2,000 a month and we can make the loan work, you might be house poor after that. Because we're going based on before taxes. Once taxes are out and your student loan payments kick in, or your car payment kicks in, all of a sudden you get like 15% of your money to work with, and then for that 15% you need to pay for electricity, heat, hot water, food, obviously, and then any other thing that you want to do that's fun. So my goal always is to put you in a situation where you're gonna live in a house that's gonna gain equity, and over time you're gonna have multiple houses down the line. So I'm in it for the long haul, so I want you to be my client and in it with me for the long haul as well. So that's it. All right, questions?
What's a good debt to income ratio?
So the FHA allows you to get to 55%, which is, I think, insane. Certain situations it makes sense, but so they'll let you go to 55% of everything. A good one, we want to see people around 40%. So, and then ideally 33%. So if you're looking at it and you have your own math, a third of your money every month should go to your bills and to your house. That would be ideal. Now, is that the case all the time? No, because taxes rise. You might be in a position where in 6 months or 8 months you might get a raise at work, or you're going for a new job. But that's kind of the ideal. So a third of your money goes to your living expenses.
Income ratio is, for individuals who don't understand the ratio and terminologies.
Sure, and I talk fast too, so if you don't understand it, just yell at me, I'll explain. So debt to income ratio is just, it's division. So we divide your total income, your total debt every month divided by your income. It's just a mathematical formula where you put everything you owe that you pay every month. So when I pull your credit report and I see that you have $100 in student loans, $50 for your credit card, and $300 for your car, all that money is added up together. So that $450 in that example, plus your house is going to cost you $1,500. So you're at $1,950 every month just to put your feet on the floor, just to pay your bills and be living in a house. That is your debt every month. And then your income, obviously, is what you make it work before the taxes are in. So that debt divided by that income equals the ratio, which is the final number that we see, which is 50% or 40% in different cases. 33% is the ideal. So if you're spending $2,000 a month, we want to see you making $6,000 a month to counteract that total number.
Now, I've heard, correct me if I'm wrong, that if you say you're going to purchase a multifamily,
Yep.
they'll count the income that you can get from the other 2 units or.
Correct. Yep. So if you buy a 2, 3, or 4 unit, so and also residential properties only go up to 4 units. Anything over that is considered commercial. So 4 units though, we can count 75% of the expected income for the other units that you're not. You have to live in one, so the other ones you're not living in. So if you have a 3 unit and you have 1,000 each floor, we'll count 1,500 of that towards your monthly payment. Towards your monthly income, and that helps you to qualify and to get to that next level. Again, I would always advise people not to live on that. So we can add it in. It makes everything look better, and it helps you to qualify for something a little bit more. That's maybe out of your price range. But you also have to be in a position where you know that, if there's vacancy, or if there's an issue with the tenant, you might not be getting rent, so you still have to cover the cost. So always be prepared, but it's definitely something that we can do to help you kind of boost your, what you're looking for a total purchase price. Yes, sir, keep going.
If I'm looking to purchase a house, let's call it fiscal year 2021, when's the best time to kind of start this process for individuals in the room who are thinking about purchasing a home, they have it on their goal sheet? When's the best time to kind of get involved with you?
I mean, ideally, I would say as soon as you have the thought, get involved with me. If you want to just see what you can afford now, where your head's at, you know, kind of, the biggest thing is to know where you're at currently, especially when it comes to your credit situation. Because if you have an issue with your credit and it might take you a year or 16 months to fix, we can start that process today instead of, you know, 2021, you know, January 2021. You're like, all right, I want to buy a house in March, and then you realize that there's a collection from the past that you had to take care of. But if you have a good handle on what your credit is and all that, I would say 3 or 4 months before you're ready to really get into the market is ideal. That way you can see what's out there, you can go look at, you know, open houses around the area, see what you like, and know what you're comfortable spending at that point, because you'll be making whatever you make at work at that point, you're probably going to make it in the next 3 months after that. So if you come to me today, you might have a totally different job, you know, 16 months from now or 18 months from now. Let me see. Keep going, Carl.
I got another. Now, hypothetically, if I am in finance currently, and I'm like, I hate my job, and I don't no longer want to be in finance, I now want to be an engineer. Okay. So I'm going to go apply for a job, you know, that they're looking for an engineer. How does that affect my ability to qualify for a loan?
Great question. So any type of job change throws a monkey wrench depending on the type of job that you get. So if you go from finance to become an engineer, but your engineer job is a salary position where you get a W-2 and you get paid every 2 weeks, we can, whatever your new salary is, we can use that amount of money because you're guaranteed by that new company that you're gonna get paid through W-2. If you decide, I hate my finance job, I'm gonna become a self-employed contractor and work for myself, you need a 2-year work history on your taxes of being self-employed. We need to see, in most cases, definite 2 years of you earning money on your own. We definitely want to see kind of increasing income over those 2 years, and then you'll need a year to date, wherever the time falls in that year, of a profit and loss statement showing that you're still making money, you're still there. So if you just decide to become an entrepreneur, God bless you, that's awesome. But when it comes to the bank, we definitely need more history. Because the reason why is before 2008, before the crash, the biggest offenders of people who let houses go foreclosed on them were self-employed people who were just doing stated income documents, who were basically just lying to the bank to get money, and they would cause the biggest problems and headaches.
You guys, for the self-employed, contractors, like you just said,
Yep.
you go off of the business credit or the credit of the actual contractor?
So the credit is off of the person who's applying. So we don't do anything business-wise, it's just you personally. The income does come off business, so if you file separately, so if you do a K-1 filing, if you have a corporation, we use that plus your personal income, we can combine those. And we take, even if you have write-offs every year, like depreciation in certain properties or equipment and stuff, we can add certain stuff back in. So you might make 100 grand, write off 70 and show 30,000, but there might be stuff we can add back in to get you like the 50,000 too. So there's always an opportunity to get that.
That was kind of my next question. Along with being self-employed and then having an employer, you said you can combine the two, correct? But you also said you needed 2 years of work history on the self-employment.
Yep.
You won't need that 2 years if you're combining, correct?
So to count the, so say you have a job, say you work at Rick as your, is that what you mean?
All right, I'm in union
Yep.
laborer by trade.
Yep.
I just started my own construction company in 2018, but my revenue hadn't started coming in until 19, my real revenue was coming in 2020.
Yep.
So I don't have that 2 years to show those numbers, but I do have it with my regular employment through the union.
Yep.
So how would that work?
So anything self-employed side, we couldn't use until the 2 years to 2 years. Even if the side gig or if you're gonna be your full-time, we still have to wait the 2 year period. But we can still use your full-time employment from the other job. And if you, same thing goes for part-time as well. If you have a part-time gig, if you have something on the side that you're doing, you need a 2 year history of it, but you can count that towards your income once the 2 years hit. So like I have a client right now who she works part-time at Finish Line, just basically during the holidays when they need her. She's been there for a while. It's an extra like $800 a month, but the $800 goes towards her total monthly income, and that just helps. That helps boost you up a little bit. It helps your application looks better when you have a little extra income like that. So,
Say I just started, like, I just got out of school, I got my job.
Yep.
And, my income has increased greatly, but I don't have 2 years of history to obviously show.
Do you work for yourself?
No.
So you work for a company?
Yeah.
So you're good. So we can count we can count your income that you're working at your job. Especially if you're a student and you just graduated, there's a reason why you haven't had a work history. We always want to see a work history too, like, or if you don't have one, so say something happens and you have a disability or you're just out of the workforce, but then you get back into it, we have to have a letter of explanation why you weren't. Being a student obviously is a reason why you didn't have a full-time job. But we're gonna count whatever you're working on now, whatever you do now, that's your income. That's what we care about.
And how long of a history do you need? 6
For-
months, a year?
No, you don't really. Honestly, if
Like, what do you look for? 4 pay stubs, 6 pay stubs?
four pay stubs is what we look for. But if it's a salary position, like if you know you're in for a salary or even hourly, but you've had a little bit of a history, 4 pay stubs works, or whatever your next new pay stub is. So say you have the union job, but you got another job in Boston, same type of field, but it's a brand new job. We'll go by the brand new job because you have a work history of being there. So really it also depends on the actual person and what we see, but if it's a, new job, same field, same career, we go by whatever the new job is and whatever the new income is. Hourly, overtime stuff, we have to use, anytime you have overtime, we have to have a history of that as well. We average that out over 2 years. So we use your base, hourly, but then we have the overtime average out.
A lot of individuals in the room are investors. During our last flip and sip, we talked about the importance of actually starting a business. So in the realm of going and getting your own personal residence, can they purchase their own personal residence using FHA with the company, or do they have to use their own name?
You have to use your own name. FHA requires you. FHA and conventional, pretty much anytime you go to a residential bank, you're gonna have to use your own name. There are certain programs that are just coming back on the market where you can be in a company in LLC can purchase a house. We do offer those, but they require more down payment and their interest rates are higher because again, they're more risky because you can just walk away from those and the bank knows that you can't, but they want to still lend on them. The reason why the FHA has the lowest interest rates on the market besides the VA, they're backed by the federal government, but they know you have to live there. It becomes us lending you money, that's all it is. The bank is gonna lend you money, it's just like you lending, a friend or family money, you wanna get it back. We know, your work history, your credit history, all that stuff is a formula basically that you're gonna pay us back eventually, over the 30 years. We just wanna make sure the money's coming back to us. So my job is really when we first meet to make sure that you fit into the buckets that they put forward to show that you're gonna pay the bank back over time.
Another question, this is my last one.
No, keep going.
For some individuals, because it's all about wealth, and oftentimes individuals feel like they don't make enough money to purchase a house.
Right.
Can you tell us a scenario where an individual who was working close to minimum wage or maybe above minimum wage, how you was able to help them purchase a house? Because I think oftentimes it's a common misconception. I work here, I can only make this much amount of money.
Sure.
I can't buy a house, when
Sure.
it's not truly the case.
No, that's definitely not the case. So the less money you make, the more work it is to find the house that you qualify for. Doesn't mean you can't do it. So I've had people who make $15 an hour, buy $250,000 two families, because they're counting the rental income that's coming in. They have, they have the 3.5% for a down payment, and they don't have a lot of debt monthly. The biggest thing we see, the biggest issue I see, and it affects my generation and most of the people in here, is student loan debt. Like, if you have a ton of student loan debt, it's gonna be harder to finance because you gotta pay all that back, obviously, it's due every month. Even if you're in deferment programs, they changed the laws now that we have to count 1% of your total student loan debt as a monthly payment. So I've had people in the past, that come in, they have a credit card that has a $25 minimum, and that's all they have, and they have 720 credit scores, they make $16 an hour, but they're still buying a $250,000 house, a 2 or 3 family, because they've taken the steps to make sure that all the other stuff is set up for them. It's harder, it's definitely harder to find those properties, but it's definitely doable. And the only way you're gonna find out is if you actually come talk to me or somebody else, some other loan officer in the business, I'll kind of guide you on your way. But the biggest thing is just know your finances. That's, we tell everybody, if you know what you're doing, you should know what your monthly payments are. If you have any, collections, if you have any issues, make sure those are known. Make sure you take care of what you can take care of, or if I tell you that they're there, take care of what you gotta do. And then you might not be able to buy tomorrow, but a year from now, you'll be in a position to buy. And there's always gonna be houses for sale, and you're always gonna need a place, especially buying multis. That's where you're gonna build the most wealth. Rental income is forever. People always need to rent, and it's something that, even when house prices dipped, rent never dipped. Rent always went up. It's always gone up and it'll always go up, because there's just, especially in Rhode Island, there's a shortage on houses, and there's a shortage on multifamilies especially. So buying something and holding it, you're gonna gain equity, and over time you're gonna build up, it's a long-term game. You're gonna build up your personal wealth through that. Go ahead.
So you may have covered this before, but if someone owns a mortgage on a home already,
Yep.
is there a way that they can go back and access, and they haven't accessed the FHA facility, is there a way that they can go back and access?
For
that?
sure.
Is it-
Yep, so if you have just a conventional loan right now,
Right.
say you bought, 10 years ago, you just have a conventional loan in your house, you can use the FHA again, as long as the house you're buying, the new house,
You can use it for the first time.
for the first time, yep,
Okay.
sorry, yep. For the first time, you can use the FHA again, again, I keep saying it again. So you can use the FHA for the first time to buy a house that's equal or an upgrade from the house you're currently living in. So they don't want to see, like, if you have a single family house that's worth $300,000, they don't want to see you buy a 3-family with the FHA that's worth $200,000. They're like, you're not going to live in the house. It has to make sense that new house is going to be a primary
It has to
residence.
make sense because that you're moving to somewhere.
Exactly. That makes sense for you.
And do you clearly you don't have to sell the home that you're in.
You do not, nope. You can have, so there's no maximum of finance properties that you can have, so as time goes on, you start building your portfolio, 15 years down the line, if you have 7 houses that you own with mortgages on them, you can go, for normal banks, you can go up to 10 mortgage properties, and then you can go to private lenders or whatever else, and you can go even beyond that. But you never have to sell, and you can, if you vacate the property, we can count expected rental income if you're gonna keep it and rent it. So if you just have to have a lease in place. So if you have a 2-family in, near LaSalle, and you live on the 2nd floor, and you're gonna get out of there and go buy a single family, if you put a renter in the 2nd floor, and on the 1st floor, we can count both those rents towards your income to help you buy a single family, wherever you go and buy one. So that's something that's doable as well. Again, with the FHA, you have to live in the house for 1 year. That's their rule. After a year, you can, even after 6 months, you can refinance out of the FHA into a conventional loan and then use the FHA all over again too. So that's a strategy some people use when they first start out.
Can you explain that a little more?
Yeah, definitely.
Which part?
Like free financing and.
Oh, refinancing? Yeah.
That's the last question.
Oh, so last one. All right. All right, I'm sorry, keep going.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
So
We'll talk
he's
later.
gonna be around, because I know everyone's gonna have personal questions. That's why he's here. That's why we didn't make the event like 50 people. Because I know everyone's gonna have personal questions. and Nick is phenomenal. You know,
No, I don't know about that.
I think so, and I don't think very highly of a lot of people. But he is phenomenal. He gives great information. He works with us. So technically, when our house is being shown, and anyone who may walk in the door, Nick is actually here in our properties. So he's actually very familiar with this property.
Yeah,
He's been here. I haven't been here in like a month and a half. This is really Rich's house, so a lot of the questions you're gonna have, Rich has the answer to it about what's been changed and things of that sort. But just for the sake of time, because we still have another segment which has to deal with hard money, which I see some people's eyebrows just perked up like, oh, that's what I'm waiting for. But no, Nick is phenomenal. He has tons of knowledge, and I know you're gonna have a lot of personal information. When the event is done, we're not asking you to leave. We want you to stay around, mingle with each other. It's a lot of different people in this room, from investors to mortgage lenders to first-time home buyers to insurance brokers to who else is around? Other investors. I already said that already. To contractors, property managers, but you won't know until you find out, right? So you got to kind of do your own due diligence, and I'm not going to help you out because you got to, step out of your own shell and start to network with these people. And that's it. I know there's tons and tons of questions, and I kind of stole it because I asked like 8, and I apologize. Next time I won't ask 8, I'll ask like 2 so everyone else can answer. So again, thank you to Nick. I think oftentimes information is being shared. We kind of downplay the information. Our company truly believes in generational wealth. We understand the impact of real estate and how much it has on individuals' lives. For me, myself, so who am I? Truly a nobody, but a somebody to somebody. My name is Carly Cardo. Oftentimes, my friends and family know me as KC. So if you call me Carly, I kind of understand like it's probably a business sense, but if you call me KC, that means most likely we met in person and we're friends. So feel free to call me KC. I was born in West Africa, Liberia. Because of the war, the civil war that's happening, me and my family migrated to the United States by my grandmother, who pretty much raised me. Phenomenal woman. Didn't have too much of education, but she was just filled with a lot of spirits and just like common sense and just great values, which she instilled in me, and which this is the reason why we're kind of in this room today, right? Every time you're able to reach someone, you should really teach them something. So a little bit about my history. So I come from the world of finance. So a lot of the things which we do as a company, we're very hard on the finance point, right? We don't buy things out of emotions. We buy things out of logic, right? And oftentimes in the home buying space, that buyers buy things based off emotion. Oh, I like this color. I like this floor. I like this light. For us, it's like how much it costs, right? And it's and that's the true value of being not only an entrepreneur but an investor. Before I continue on, I just want to recognize a few people who's been in the room several different times, and they're actually taking a step and they're doing phenomenal now. One is Felix. Felix has found a house. He's negotiated the price of the house, and I don't know when he's closing, but I'm excited when I see someone else take the jump, kind of welcome into the real estate world, and I know he's going to achieve a lot more. So let's give him a round of applause. Someone also is I don't know where he is because I don't have my glasses. Edmonton. Oh, back here. So Edmonton came to our events, had numerous conversations. We talked about joint venture deals. We actually have 2 in the work right now. But in addition, just having him understand the importance of like ownership, right? Where he's able to get pre-approved, and now he's in the market looking for his house, right? A 3-family, which he understands, been pre-approved. So that's the power of what we're teaching. We don't want you to just like take the information and kind of walk away with it. No, we want you to take the information, implement it, which leads me to my next point. In our workshops, we actually make you work. So a lot of what I'm going to be teaching today, you're going to be able to implement it in your groups, right? And then I'm going to kind of correct some of the things in which you're doing so you can better grasp the concept of hard money, oftentimes people may refer to as private money, or for the sake of our workshop, I think it's completely two different things. Hard money comes from a company, it comes from private investors. Private money is if I go and ask you money. Can you loan me 100,000 and I can pay you X, Y, and Z, because it's a private transaction in my book, right? Oftentimes you'll see online, they kind of commingle it. Hard money and finance is very confusing, but it's simple at the same time. This is only probably going to be our first meeting on it, and I was kind of going into the fire because our mortgage broker, our second speaker, got sick. So over the last, I think, 3 or 4 hours, I had to put together something that makes sense and that's digestible for everyone in the room to kind of take like step one on the topic of hard money. So we're gonna keep going with our outline that we have for today, okay? So a little bit more about me again. So I originally was a financial advisor. I started off my finance career with New York Life Securities in Boston. Did well for myself, loved it at that point in time, but I've been investing in real estate for the last 8-9 years. Right? I did it part-time. It wasn't until the start of 2019 when our group came together for us to be able to come into this real estate investing realm. Played sports in high school, 3-sport athlete. Unfortunately, I wasn't good enough to be like D1 basketball. I was good enough with D3, D2. Low level D2. Definitely D3. But I ended up getting a scholarship to go to University of Rhode Island. But it was more for track and field, which is something I didn't even love. Like once I figured out what it took to be like a college athlete, I think it only was about a week and I quit. No way. Attended University of Rhode Island. I have just a very diverse and unique background. I was the women's basketball manager for the basketball team. So I got a lot of respect for women's sports, especially the inequality that happens within the sports, and I've been able to see it and view it firsthand. Do a lot of nonprofit work, sit on some boards. It's always about giving back to your community and things of that sort. So why am I qualified up here to have a conversation with you regarding hard money? Technically, I'm not. But this guy called out, so someone got to step in, right? And that's kind of how we've gotten to this point. So a little bit about what we're going to do here and what happens in our sip and flip. Like I said, our educational workshop is built for you to have this hands-on experience so you can go out into the world and be able to execute the things that which we teach you, right? I'm not saying it's perfect. What I'm saying is we've perfected it when we do it. So all we can do is teach you based on our experiences of what's out there and what to look forward to, right? Don't act like I'm a know-it-all. What I'm very good at is being resourceful. When I don't know something, I'll look it up and I'll spend an enormous amount of time to study it. So when you do ask a question, that I can be able to answer truthfully, right? Once you come to any of our event, we're very transparent about every single thing. Ask us about this house, ask us how much we purchased it for. Some people all the time, it's public information once you close. So why are people hiding it? Oftentimes when it comes to knowledge, people understand the power of it, so they don't share it. And this is why we continue to give this event out free, right, to everyone who wants to come and listen, right? All right, enough about the boring stuff about me and what we're doing. Let's get down to exactly why you're here. Hard money, teach me how to qualify for it. Help me understand what is hard money, correct? And so the way we're gonna work out today is that it's gonna be broken up into 4 parts. The first part, we're gonna cover definition and terminology. If you don't understand the definition and terminology, you're already starting off on the wrong foot, because at that point in time, lenders can dance around you. And I'm someone who don't like to be danced around. I like to do the dancing. So oftentimes, I find myself correcting lenders, attorneys, realtors, and a lot of people. If you don't know your stuff, we will correct it. Why? Because we spend a lot of time learning to do the things that we know you should be doing, right? So once we go over the terminologies of what lenders are going to use, then we're going to jump into, we're going to work through 2 hard money lending criteria from actual companies. All I did was do a quick Google search for one. The second one I looked on Instagram. And I literally printed their information and we're going to go through it live. So these are real actual lenders. You can go out and research them yourself, and we're going to break down based off what they're providing you in the terminology which you just learned, so you can kind of apply it almost immediately, right? So I hope you have your phones. We do have some pen. We don't have any paper, but everyone has an electronic phone, and you have a note sections. Our first terminology section, you probably want to take the notes on these terms because they're very important and it's very crucial if you're really trying to get into this flipping game. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Perfect. Part 3, then we're gonna go out, we're gonna go after an actual first-hand deal, our deal. Speedy House Buyers, real numbers. And you're gonna see how we took the terminology that you just learned, right? And then also after that, the definitions, terminology and definition, and then actual hard money lender, and we're gonna apply it to our deal so you get to see it firsthand. Then from that point on, we're gonna give you guys some scenarios. Break you guys into groups, and your groups is gonna come together with some answers based on the scenarios and lending criteria we're gonna give you. So you learn how to break it down. Again, it's very complex. This is only step 1. So there's some information that I'm not gonna be able to give you guys because it might have you saying, what? So there's probably gonna be a part 2 and a part 3. And I will absolutely get a mortgage broker in this room so you guys can tear them apart and ask them 10,000 questions, right? Don't ask me any questions while I go through this. Because you can ask me questions at the end in the segment, okay? And then we'll kind of take care of it in that format. Does that sound fair to everyone?
Yes.
Does anyone think that I'm not fair? Other than Rich and John. So I'm gonna take another step back. John is also part of the team. I forgot to give him his shirt and his hat. John runs our property management section of the company. He does a phenomenal job and making sure we take care of those individuals who just don't want to deal with the headache. Although we always tell everyone you can really manage it yourself, but if you don't want to, we're here. Just like we tell our sellers anytime, you should really keep your house. We believe in home ownership and you can do it yourself, but sometimes they just don't want to hear it. They're like, nah, I'm done with this. Forget my ex-husband, forget this person, these kids are the devils, they need to get out of this house, whatever the excuse is. All right, you know what? Ma'am, sir, we completely understand it. Like, let's get to it. We'll happily take it off your hands, but we're always trying to tell them, keep it. So if you don't, we'll gladly take it off your hand. A couple other individuals in the room that I didn't mention. We have Holly in the room, who's a very good investor. She actually purchased one of our houses, and that she's in the process of just flipping now. She's gonna make some
It's
good money.
almost sold. It's under contract.
Right.
1 day on the market at 2
Oh.
offers. 3 days at 3 offers.
So we're very honest and transparent. Because oftentimes when people sell a house, they misrepresent neighborhoods, they misrepresent repairs, and they misrepresent ARV, which we'll go over what that means. That's part of the definition. We don't want to do that, right? We're individuals in our community. We want everyone to be happy, right? Oftentimes we understand we may not agree to terms, but you can still be like, they're okay. And that's what we strive to do, right? At any point in time, and anyone that we run paths with, and we tell sellers to listen. We may not agree on price, but it's our job to leave you in a better situation than you was before you met us, right? So we want to make sure everyone is in a better situation, no matter where they are in their life, in their real estate adventures, and so forth and so on and whatnot. Okay, make sense?
Yes.
All right. I don't think it makes sense. Make sense?
Yes.
All right. Perfect. Everyone ready to go?
Yes.
All right. So we're gonna jump right in. Okay. Oh, who said you're? My bad. I'm not supposed to let a year go on your. All right. So for the sake of simplicity, because we have to walk before we run, there are 4 ways you can purchase a house. Today, you heard Nick speak about the traditional method of purchasing a house, which is through bank financing. In addition to that, you have cash. Like, it's cold hard cash is in your pocket. You show up. Well, it can't be in your pocket, but you need to show up to closing and give your wire instructions for them to be able to pull the money out. right? The third way is hard money, which we're going to focus on today. The fourth way is private money, which we're not going to focus on today. And I explained earlier on, I believe there is a difference. Although in the industry, they use it interchangeably, I don't believe it. And anyone who comes to me and starts saying, oh, I'm a private money lender, I don't want to speak to you, right? Because you're already starting off on the wrong foot with me, which means you're slightly trying to misrepresent certain things, right? And I'm not for it. Right? So oftentimes hard money and private money, like I said before, gets tossed around. Some people consider it the same, I don't. This segment of the workshop will only focus on hard money. So pull out your pen, paper, pads. The first definition of hard money that I want to make sure everyone understands, especially when you're dealing with us and the education we're providing. Hard money is a non-traditional loan that is backed by a real property, right? And is traditionally offered through companies and group of investors. Say it again. Hard money is a non-traditional loan that is backed by a real property and is traditionally offered by companies and group of investors. What makes this so important? Pretty much what they're saying, they don't really care about you. They care about the deal. Right? If you've been in our segments before, you kind of understand our formula in which we live by. Anyone in the room remember our formula? That's been in here before. That's a problem. I mean, I didn't do a very good job of teaching you. So the formula which we use to purchase properties, we take the ARV, I'll explain it later, it's one of the definitions, right? We times it by, if you're first starting off, you probably want to times it by 70%. We can go a little bit higher because we have great relationships with our contractors and certain individuals who kind of do work for us. And this is the time I plug Byron in. Byron is one of our contractors who he does a large portion of our paint jobs, right? If you look on this photo over here, he did actually, it was probably like 3 or 4 flipping sips ago where it was a single family house, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, total like 3,600 square foot, and Byron painted it. He continues to do great work for us. All the property was just recently sold in Coventry. He painted that also. Byron does phenomenal work for us. We love him, and we want to make sure that he can do what we do, so he doesn't really need us, but when we call him, he'll still come. That's the plug. So yes, so hard money, they do not care about you, right? They care about the deal. Does the deal make sense to them? Now there's some, no hard money lender are created equal. Because some, they'll allow you getting the deals because they can foreclose on you and they get their money back and they get a property that's below value. And when you start to navigate through them, you want to deal with the individuals who have experience in flipping so they understand the variables that happens oftentimes that you can't foresee. But you end up just dealing with it either way. Because real estate, as much as people may believe it's a money game, it's really a solution game. You provide someone a solution, you can have their house, right? For example, a lady who owned this house, right? Yeah, I mean, she's a little bit crazy, but I've seen crazier. Phenomenal woman, right? She's going through certain points in time in her life where she just no longer wants to deal with the house. Most individual who was offering in a house, it was for the most part just cut and dry. This is what I can give you. But what we did for her is we explained to her why we need the property at this price, right? Oftentimes when you throw numbers out, people don't understand, right? How do you get to this number? I looked on Zillow and Zillow told me it was 280. Whoa, lady, your house is nowhere close to 280. Let me explain to you why. Yes, Zillow may say this, but Zillow is pulling information from whole different sources, and it might not be accurate. Based on what we see your house is at, this is what we believe is worth. By the way, let's walk backwards now. When it's time to sell the house, man, guess what? You have to use a realtor. The realtors charge us a percentage of what the property is going to be sold for. So if this house can go for probably $300,000, 5%, man, that's $15,000. So let's work our way back from that. All right. Now we're at $285. By the way, your house needs $60,000 worth of work for it to become 2020 standards. The kitchen looks nice if we was in the 60s, right? And so you got to really walk them backwards, but in hard money, they care about the deal, right? don't get caught up in yourself. They really don't care about you. Just make sure the money and make sure the numbers make sense for you, right? So you can be able to purchase it. Because the thing about money, right? Everyone is willing to lend. Question is, what are their terms? Right. Next definition, points. What points truly are, people in real estate, we're not truly bright. Oftentimes we try to present things as if we're very important and bright. Really not. Points truly means interest, right? And points are paid up front. Not up front meaning that you call someone and said, give me $2,000 and I need to pay this up front before you give me a loan. No, all money transaction needs to happen at the closing table. Does that make sense? Because oftentimes people get burnt in this way by individuals presenting themselves as hard money lender. So if you go and you say, I want to borrow $100,000, and they say it's 4 points, that means you need to give them $4,000. If they say, I need $4,000 wired to my account before closing, you tell them to kick rocks, right? Points are paid up front, but it's paid at the closing tables. And they're just saying points because there's other parts of the lending terms kind of differentiate and give it another word, but it truly just means interest. Make sense? Next terminology is the interest rate. Again, pretty simple. This is the part of loan that gets charged interest and is typically expressed on an annual percentage rate for your outstanding loan amount. For example, if someone says, I'm going to charge you 12% on a loan, right? And you're saying this house is worth you need $200,000 to purchase the house, to renovate the house, right? What is 12% of that? Can someone answer that for me? You have phones, pull out a calculator, someone tell me. $24,000. That is your annual percentage rate. Does that make sense? That's your annual percentage rate. And oftentimes when hard money lender are communicating to you or they're giving you their requirements, they'll tell you it. Right? Now, the next one, it only makes sense after, what is your monthly interest only payments? You take that annual percentage rate, you divide it by how many months we have? 13? 12. Good. 12. And then you're going to be responsible to pay your hard money lender on a monthly basis.